Thanks for the invitation to be here today at your workshop and conference. The thoughts I want to share not only come from 23 years as being a pastor, but also heavily influenced by the community, the faith community and the school I went to in Atherton, one of the first places, I believe, to have a P&F in the country. It was a very active P&F, very involved, and we were very gifted to have a pastor that encouraged involvement by parents and families, because he saw them as the backbone and the future, but also the gift. They were gifts, he used to say, to our school and parish community. I want to reflect upon the role of parents and start by looking at how parents, as lay people, are very much the church. That's repeating basically what the Second Vatican Council said over 50 years ago. And we've been through an interesting period of pontificates, and a lot of commentators are saying that Pope Francis has specifically landed the church back into the agenda of the Second Vatican Council. You can see that in his language. A lot of people say, oh, it's really great new stuff he's coming out with. Well, he's not. He's actually put us back on track in terms of the vision of the Second Vatican Council. And that vision really can be summed up as a return towards relationships. It had an emphasis, and does have an emphasis, on every baptised person, every person involved in the enterprise of church, which the school is very much at the heart of, being fully and actively involved. It has an emphasis upon a hierarchy, a clergy, a bureaucracy, if we want to use that word. Don't shiver, Bill, when I say that. That serves and provides servant leadership, leadership from the bottom up. It emphasises co-responsibility according to gifts, not rank. It emphasised community, and in particular communion. The communion that exists, I think, between and should exist between the school and its parish, and the parish and the diocese. The school is at the very heart of the parish, and Pope Francis says that the parish should be used as the crucible, as the vehicle for every Catholic enterprise in the local area where it lives. Have a look at Evangelii Gaudium. It's one of his big emphases. That doesn't mean that the parish priest, or it shouldn't mean that the parish priest dominates or is a dictator, which has happened in the past and probably still does happen in some places. It means that the parish is an opportunity for every person involved in any Catholic enterprise, the school very much so, using that community, that group, that influence in society for the advancement of the gospel by bringing their own particular gifts and talents to bear. And it also has an emphasis or set an agenda for the church, and Pope Francis is very much into this, one of dialoguing with the world in which the church exists, and to which the church, and very much the school community, must witness the gospel and Christ. Now, these themes are very much at the forefront of official church documents. I don't always recommend reading official church documents because they can be flowery, turgid, and take a long time to get to the point. But I'll read two sections from the official Catechism of the Catholic Church, which strike me as summing up what I've just said. The first one is, parents must regard their children as the children of God, a gift to them from God, and respect them as human persons, showing themselves obedient to the will of the Father in heaven. They educate their children to fulfil God's law. That also sums up what the Catholic school is about, why it exists. It's there to support parents in the way in which they bring their children up, in particular as Christians. But it's also there to welcome parents and to support them, I believe, in just bringing their children up. Secondly, parents, and this is a big long paragraph, so please don't fall asleep when I read it out, but it's very important. Parents have the first responsibility for the education of their children. Parents are the first educators. They bear witness to this responsibility first by creating a home where tenderness, forgiveness, respect, fidelity, and selfless service are the rule. The home is where education and its virtues begin. This requires an apprenticeship in self-denial, sound judgment, self-mastery, the preconditions of all true freedom. Parents teach their children to subordinate the material and instinctual dimensions to interior and spiritual ones. If I can put a summary on that, just by loving them. That's the first question or the first statement when a child is baptised. God is love. Will you bring them up and show them through your own lives that great mystery? And parents have a serious responsibility to give good example to their children by knowing how to acknowledge their own failings to their children, and parents will be better able to guide and correct them by doing that. On this day, one day after Sorry Day, I think that's a very important aspect that parents pass on and witness to their children. God is love, God is mercy, God is justice. And basically, the church says that parents, the family, are the basic church, the little church amongst the church itself. So in light of that teaching I've just read out, regards to parents being the first teachers and the family being the basic little church, in this diocese alone, I'm aware that there are 8,078 little churches, families, and 8,078 first teachers, particularly first teachers of the faith. That's a voice that cannot be ignored. That's a group of talented and gifted people that can't be excluded. But for the good of the church, for the good of our mission to proclaim reconciliation and mercy, the gospel, we must be more and more inclusive of parents and how they participate. I think you're very correct in saying that the PNF has evolved and must continue to evolve in light of some of the things that the church is saying. But not just the PNF. The PNF is really the encourager. It's parents that must become more and more, as we say, engaged but involved, participating in the life of the school. Parents are the laity of the church. And the Second Vatican Council said the laity are the church in the world, not the priests, not the nuns and brothers, not the holy people, but the laity. And therefore, in the Catholic Church and in the Catholic school, That is at the forefront of the place in which it exists as the church, meeting every day, living every day in the classroom, in the playground, and the parents of the school in the way in which they support and grow their school. There's a big theme in the Catholic Church, particularly in parishes and dioceses, that of stewardship. That extends to the Catholic school. Parents exercise stewardship. It's not only a duty, it's a right. Stewardship in terms of their time, their treasure, and their talent. And if I could mention the F word, Carmel, which is constantly on my mind now. I'm Vicar for Finance. It's not. Funding. The basis, we must remind ourselves constantly, the basis of government-funded independent schools, which was started by Robert Menzies, continued by Gough Whitlam, and continued even more by John Howard, is that 30%, if not more, of parents in this country send their children to Catholic and other independent schools. They pay taxes too. You pay taxes. That's part of the treasure you contribute towards education, not just within the Catholic sector, but across the whole sector. And the fees and fundraising that happens for Catholic schools is also very much part of that treasure, that investment of gifts by the Catholic laity that are parents. The days of parishes on Sundays paying off their school debts surely is over. It's not sustainable, and it's also not equitable when the school is being used by parents. It's their investment for their children. Also, the working bee, organising and running fetes, being a member of boards and committees, actively participating in the life of the PNF, and attending masses and liturgies are all very important. They all are the glue that holds together the life of the school, the communal life, the relationship life of the school. And they invigorate and sustain your children, and they invigorate and sustain the school as part of the Catholic community. So to conclude, engagement in the life of the Catholic school is a responsibility, because by engaging in your school, you sustain its life as a faith-centred community. And by building strong and faith-filled Catholic schools, we make a difference in terms of the life of your children, the life of your families, the life of your parish. And as Pope Francis says regularly and reminds us, we make a big difference in the name of Christ to the life of the place in which we live. So thank you. I hope you have a good day and a very productive conference, and I thank the PNF on behalf of the Bishop and the Diocese for arranging this very important gathering. Thank you very much.